Hey, I'm Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Sagrada Artisans. This is the legacy version of Sagrada. I just got it the other day, and Megan and I have already played through 6 games of the campaign. We played it over the last weekend because we were having a lot of fun with it. And the game uses a component that I don't think I've seen in a game before, although we've seen things like this in roll and write games, but that is the game uses a coloring book. There are no spoilers here. I'm going to show you just the first scenario, and not even really all that up close, so you won't spoil anything there. But really, it's the first scenario. It does not spoil anything about the game. But everything that you do in Sagrada comes from this coloring book. And here's what one of the scenarios looks like. This is the first scenario. So you have on this page any special instructions. You have your public goals here, same for all players, and then you have some tools that you can use if you'd like. I'm showing you one of the books that we didn't use because the game plays up to 4. We're playing it a 2-player campaign. And here is where in Sagrada you would normally be placing dice here throughout the game. Instead of doing that, you are using colored pencils. I'll hold up a few of them here. Using colored pencils to color in these spaces, writing numbers, coloring in the squares, following the standard Sagrada rules. The first scenario starts off looking very similar to Sagrada. I love the use of this coloring book in so many different ways. One, I think it's a great kind of twist on the use of components. They could have included a ton of dice in this game, but instead they included really only 10 dice, 5 colors, 2 of each, and included the color pencils instead. So they scaled it, I think, a lot better, focusing their budget on other components, and they added some components into this idea of coloring. And plus, as a legacy game, it's nice to have an artifact where you can look back and see the things that you made throughout the campaign. So I love that. I love the use of the coloring book for that purpose. I like that they built the objectives and the tools and even the scoring into this space right here. It means that players aren't having to look across the table to see any special rules for that scenario or remember anything. They can just look right here at any given time and see the options that they have for this scenario. Really clever use of creating a scenario in a fairly abstract game, but I like that everything is right here, opposed to like a legacy game or a campaign game where you have maps on these pages for all players to see. Just a clever use of the book. One little thing I like about the book is you can see here these elements around the edges here have no gameplay impact, but they still offered shapes and things that you can do to color in when it's not your turn. We haven't used it all that much, but I like that they're here. If your opponent or opponents are taking a really long time in this game, you can just color in your stained glass windows, and that is a perfectly viable thing to do with your time while you're playing. Also, I like that each book is the same. A lot of legacy games, I think, might have said, okay, let's make each book a little asymmetric. But instead, the asymmetry in the game comes from other elements that you're gaining throughout the campaign that I won't talk about here. But I like that the books are actually all the same. Doesn't matter which one you have. They are identical. I think that's it. Oh, and last, yeah, so obviously I have not done anything special with this book yet, but you can see in the front cover, there is a flap here. It's a flap that you learn about right away. You learn about what this flap is, and it lets you store components. You can see it right here. It talks about toolbox capacity. This is something that you can see when you open the book for the first time. You actually store cards that you gain in the campaign in this little envelope here. And there's something that I won't show you that's also on the inside of this flap, and even on the back page. So they used like not just this full book, but they used there's a flap on the back page too. Just a great use of this coloring book in a variety of ways. And even I want to point out when this flap flips up, it means that even when I am looking at this scenario, you can picture the flap is up here. So you can actually see what's on that flap, which you need to see while you're actually playing the game. Just a really, really clever, brilliant component design that went into this coloring book. So it's really kind of more of a component video today than a mechanism video, but I really admire what they did with this component in Sagrada. And there are mechanisms I could talk about, but I would end up spoiling different things they do later in the campaign. So I'll just focus on that component. Really clever use of a component in a game like this. Taking an abstract game, Sagrada, one that I really enjoy, where you get to look at the stained glass window that you've created with dice at the end of the game, and instead you're looking at a stained glass window that you're created by drafting dice and coloring in what those colors and numbers are in your book. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Sagrada Artisans. I'm really enjoying the campaign, and I look forward to playing the last few games of the campaign to see how it turns out. Yeah, let me know your thoughts if and when you play this game, or if you've seen other games use coloring books as for interesting methods or for giving players a new method, I guess, of expressing themselves in the game. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks.